Hello everyone and welcome to Coffee Break. My name is Angela and today we're going to be talking about the Mylio InBox. This is a special folder created when you install Mylio Photos that can be a drag and drop place for you to put things that you want to organize into your library. Before we get started, I do want to let you know about some of the other events we have going on for you. This next week, we've got our live Q&A sessions on Tuesday and Thursday. Those are at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. On Friday, we'll have our coffee breaks, and these are, like today's session, also on another topic where we dive in and look at one little area of the app for about 20 minutes, and it's a live tutorial where you can also ask questions. Next week, we're going to be talking about deleting media. And this is something that there's a lot of confusion on, especially for new users. If you're just getting to know Mylio Photos, what happens when you delete things inside the app? How should you do it? Where do the files go? Can those things be recovered? We're going to cover all of that in depth next Friday. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into today's presentation, which is managing your Mylio inbox. We're going to go over all the ways that you can keep it clean, keep it organized, and do a little bit of light troubleshooting if something doesn't seem to be working the way that you expect. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about what you're going to learn today. We'll go over what the Mylio inbox is and how you should use it, using the inbox on mobile and on the desktop and how those things differ and what's the same. We'll talk about some organization best practices for keeping things tidy. And like I said, how to troubleshoot some common issues. So what is the Mylio inbox? In Mylio, this is basically your virtual intake tray. It's a folder that's created when you install Mylio Photos. So Mylio does a couple of things when you first install the app, and one of them is it creates this folder. It's a folder that lives on your hard drive called the Mylio inbox. And it's the quickest way to get media into your, into your photo library. It's always scanning for new media, meaning that like any other folder that you have with Mylio Photos, Mylio is always looking at those folders that it knows about for new stuff. So when you drag and drop stuff into the Mylio inbox on your computer, Mylio is going to find that and often instantly bring that into your library. Now we'll talk about some of the caveats on the instantly part because it's not always exactly instantaneous, but it's often very, very quick. And also finally, that this is not a place that's intended for long-term storage. You're not going to necessarily harm anything by keeping things here, but it can be cluttered and feel messy. And like any other inbox, like the physical one that you have on your desk, you don't want it to become stacked up too high because you're never going to be able to find anything in there. Think of it as a door, not a room. Media should move through it, not live there. So we're going to talk about all of that today. First off, where do you find the Mylio inbox? When you're in the Mylio Photos application, it is going to be at the top level of the application in the folders view. So depending on what plan you're on with Mylio Photos, up here at the top, let me just switch over to Mylio here, that might be easier. You might see My Family Library if you're on a family plan. You might see Mylio Photos Library if you're on an individual plan. You might see My Team Library if you're on a business plan. Up here at the top, these are the Mylio created folders. The first one here is the Mylio inbox. You probably also have one called Mylio Pictures. We're going to focus in here on the Mylio inbox. So that is where you find that in Mylio Photos. You can also open up the folder tree and it's going to be right there in the folder tree. And again, it's the same folder. That is just where you find it inside of Mylio. Now, when you're looking out in your file system, if you are on Windows, you're going to find that in Windows Explorer under your favorites. And if you're on a Mac, that's going to be here under your favorites in macOS Finder. Let me jump over here to my Finder. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new Finder window. Let me jump back over here to Mylio, drag that onto the screen, and you can see over here underneath my favorites, there's my Mylio inbox. It is a physical folder that sits on my computer, and it's a shortcut put right here in my favorites. So anytime that I find stray media on my computer or on an external drive that I go, oh, these kind of one-off things, these need to be in Mylio, I can simply drag and drop it into that Mylio inbox folder, and then this is where it appears inside of Mylio Photos. So it's very, very convenient to find it regardless of where you are. If you are on a mobile device, you will find it, again, under the folders view in your mobile device, but you're not going to be able to access it through the file system. So Android and iOS, they do have their file system apps, But the Mylio InBox is hidden in those particular devices. So you're only going to find it in the file system on Windows and on macOS. So these are the places where you can generally find it. It's very accessible and very easy to find. So first off, let's start and talk about using Mylio on the desktop. As I mentioned earlier, this is the place to bring in scattered files. So you can drag and drop things from anywhere on your computer directly into the Mylio InBox. And this relocates them. If you're just doing a drag and drop, you're grabbing them from one location and you're putting them into that Mylio InBox folder. So if you're wondering, where do they go? They go into a different folder on your computer. It's just a folder that Mylio created, but it's like any other folder that lives on your computer. So you can go ahead and drag those in there and it moves it from one location to the other. If you do a copy, if you copy from one location and paste it into the Mylio InBox, you've just made a duplicate of that. So it really depends on how you want to use it. This is also a great tool for when you export from other apps. Now, most applications for photo editing and so forth, they give you the easy option of save this back to the folder where it came from. I like that. That's my favorite thing. But not every application gives you that little shortcut. So if you can't find an easy way to get those files back to Mylio, what you can do is just put them into the Mylio InBox and then later back in Mylio, sort them back to the folder that they need to go in. So it's just a great place to drag and drop things or quickly put things that you need to get into your Mylio library. If you're doing a big import with, many folders and many images, sure, you can drag and drop in there, but you can also do a regular import that way. The Mylio InBox is really well suited for kind of those one-off, smaller things that you want to get into your library. When you're using the Mylio InBox on mobile, this is the location for Mylio to share things to the Mylio app. So anytime you tap the share button on your iPhone or your Android phone and you want to send it to the Mylio Photos app, the Mylio InBox is where those files go. So for instance, if you are in Apple Photos and you have a shared family library or a shared album, those shared things with you don't get automatically imported into Mylio because of copyright protections. So you have to manually take those things from those shared locations. It could be Facebook Messenger, it could be WhatsApp, wherever people are sharing things with you. If you click on those photos and then say share, click that share icon on your phone and choose the destination for that share to be Mylio. Once you do that, those pictures are going to end up in the Mylio InBox. So it's really great for getting those things from all of those different locations into Mylio. It also works really well with mobile editors. So if you have pictures that you want to edit, maybe you're going into Snapseed. Apparently I can't spell right there. I put Snap, it's supposed to say Snapseed. Radiant Photo, Lightroom, any other editing app that you're using on your phone, your tablet. Once you're done with your edit, to get that picture in its edited state back to Mylio, go ahead and click that share menu and you're going to pick Mylio Photos as the destination and that picture will end up in your Mylio InBox. Very, very handy. So once you've got all of these things coming into your inbox, what do you do with it? The first thing you probably want to think about is moving those files out. Like I said, think of it as a corridor, not a room. You want to have it be someplace you pass through, not someplace where your files hang out. So once media is in the Mylio InBox, you want to look at moving it to its permanent home in your library. So think of it as kind of a to-do list. If I jump over here to my Mylio and I go into my inbox, you can see I've actually got quite a lot of stuff in here. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the flatten here so I can see all of the things. I have a folder here called Scotland Black and White, and this is from October of last year. And I want to take these pictures and I want to get these into my regular organization. So what I'm going to do is just right click on this and say move to folder. And then I can go ahead and choose 2025. There's my photos, my main archive, folder 2025. And I'm going to select that. And that's going to go ahead and physically move that folder of images that I dropped into my inbox into the right place in my library. So now when I go into photos and I go down to 2025, there's that Scotland Black and White folder. So it's a very quick and easy way to go through and organize all of those things that are kind of those one-offs that you need to get put someplace else. So that's one way you can do it. You can also use quick filters. So if you have a lot of things that are similar that you know you're going to want to group and put into the same place, quick filters can be very helpful with that. They can also help you decide where that media should go. So between the quick filters and the calendar view, I'm going to say those are probably the easiest and best ways to organize these. And I'm going to actually show you the calendar view way of organizing them first. So I'm going to jump over to the calendar view in Mylio, and by default, let's double click on that. By default, it's showing me everything. But over here on the left, I can open up this left panel and I can go down to by folder. This is my quick filters, and I can filter this by the Mylio inbox. So I can then find all of the pictures that are in the inbox by date. And because I use a date-based filing system for my pictures, this makes it really easy for me to find all of the pictures from a specific date or date range and then put them into the right place in my library. So let me go ahead and go back here to this one here in 2010. There's an image there, and I want to find out a little bit more about this. So I'm going to open up the info panel. This is from September 3rd, 2010. That's the folder that this needs to go in. So I'm going to go ahead and then just right click on this. If there were multiple images, I could select them all. And then I'm going to say move to folder. And because I use that date-based system, I can say 2010 and 09-03. And there we go. Agrigento, I can say select. And there we go. I have just relocated that out of my Mylio inbox. You'll notice because the Mylio inbox filter is still active, no more results show. That's because I moved it out of the Mylio inbox to the place where it actually goes. So if you don't have a date-based system, if you organize things in a different way, you can still do that using quick filters. So go into your Mylio inbox, you have all of these images, and then open up the filters section here at the bottom left. Go ahead and close up the navigation. And then you can go ahead and group these things however you like and start moving them into the appropriate places in your library. So you can grab a bunch of images, you can filter them by date. So let's say I want to grab everything that is by year. We're going to go into 2025, and actually you can just type that in here at the top. So I want to go by date 2025, and let's go ahead and pin that. And I can go ahead and say, okay, everything from 2025 here, let me just select all, right click, and I want to move to folder. And where did I move? There's my move to folder. And again, I can go 2025, and I can move that directly into my 2025 folder. Or I can narrow that down by date and say some of these need to go into the Galway Downs, some of these need to go to Lake Henshaw, some of these need to go to different folders. So that's the way I like to organize what's in my inbox, and it just makes it very simple to group and move those things so you don't have to do them all one by one. All right. Managing in Mylio is always going to be the best way to handle those files. So just because you can see them in the file system, let me pop back over here to Finder. Here in my Mylio inbox, here are all of those different files that are showing here in my inbox. I can, if I need to, manage them here in the file system, but it is always best when working with Mylio to make any moves and changes inside the Mylio application, not in the file system. If you start moving things around in the file system, Mylio can get confused. So it's always best to do that from inside the Mylio app, and that keeps things organized. So that is how I like to keep my Mylio inbox organized. Deleting media from the inbox. So this is a great question because people sometimes don't quite understand that this is stuff that you've moved from one location to another. You dropped it in your Mylio inbox. Maybe you think you don't want it in the inbox anymore, so you just delete it. Well, guess what? If that is the only copy of that picture, you are permanently deleting it from Mylio and all of your devices. It is a physical folder that lives on your computer. So when you delete something, it is a permanent delete. You're moving it to the system trash, and once that system trash is emptied, then it's gone. So keep in mind that when you're dropping things into the Mylio inbox, you're physically moving it on your computer. This is not virtual. It lives in your folders and not in the Mylio app. And that goes for any media that you add to Mylio Photos. Just keep in mind, Mylio, the application, does not hold your pictures. They live in your file system in folders, and Mylio is aware of those folders and watches those folders, and the inbox is no different in that. So when you delete things, keep in mind that it's a permanent action and that it will be removed from all of your Mylio devices. The other thing is to note, if you want to go into the file system and you delete things in the file system, how Mylio handles that is going to be directly related to how you have your external changes policy set up. By default, Mylio is going to attempt to restore any pictures you delete in the file system from one of your other devices. If you've changed that setting, you might end up losing that across all of your devices. So it just depends on how you have things set up. If you want to start working in the file system, what you're going to want to do is go into Mylio, go over to Devices or Dashboard and Devices. Go ahead and select your device, and down here at the bottom, you have the external changes policy. So by default, it's going to be set to restore files deleted in the operating system, like I just mentioned. But if you do need to make changes in the file system, you can alter this. I'm not going to go in depth on this, kind of a different thing that little rabbit hole I could go down. But I did want you to know that there are different implications for when you're working in the file system. So when you delete media from Mylio, just keep in mind you are deleting something from your computer. You're not just deleting it from Mylio. All right. So one of the things that I hear often, we're going to go into some troubleshooting stuff now, is that I added things to the inbox, but they're not showing up. And this can be the case with any folder in Mylio. If you take pictures and you put it into a folder that Mylio is watching, it's often very, very fast, but it's not always instantaneous. And that's because there's a lot of stuff going on with Mylio that runs behind the scenes. So if you've put things into the inbox, let's say you're working on doing some photo editing, you drop some edits in there, but they're not showing up in Mylio. First thing I would do is check the activity monitor. Mylio is constantly scanning, but if it's busy with other tasks, those pictures might not show up for a little bit. And this can take anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes, or if you're in the middle of another big import or another big process, it could honestly take hours. It just depends on what Mylio is doing. So what you're going to do is up here in the upper right, there is an activities monitor, and you're going to go ahead and click on that, and that's going to show you everything that Mylio has going on at this particular minute. The next thing you're going to want to do if things are still not showing up, let's say you check the activity monitor, everything's cool, and things are still not showing up. You're going to prompt Mylio to scan for changes. If you go to the folders view, you right click on a folder and you go to what's called more folder actions, you can choose scan for changes. And that's going to go ahead and tell Mylio, go ahead and prioritize scanning this folder for anything new. If all else fails and stuff is still not showing up, just quit Mylio, restart it. That gives it a fresh start. That kind of pauses any other things that has going on. And the first thing it does when it restarts is scanning those folders. So fully quit it and relaunch Mylio Photos if things are not showing up where you expect them to. The second thing that people get kind of scared of is they put things on their computer into the Mylio InBox folder in Finder or Explorer, and then later on they come back and they see that those files appear to be gone, and the only thing left are XMP files. And they get a little bit scared because they go, oh my gosh, did Mylio delete my stuff? So I can assure you, Mylio did not delete them. XMPs are always present because regardless of your sync settings, they store your metadata, and your original quality files are likely just not cached locally. So on your laptops, on your most computers, on your phones and so forth, when you look in the file system, you're only going to see the XMP files because your phone, or well, your phones as well, but your computers especially are set to space saver. That means that Mylio is going to offload all of your full resolution files to your vaults and your larger storage to keep things running smoothly and fast and efficient on your computer. So it's not that they're gone. Those are probably just stored elsewhere. You can always go into Mylio, right click on that image and say download originals, and that will bring that back for you. It'll put it back in that folder. And if you need to have those things permanently stay in that inbox folder and you don't want Mylio to clear that out, you always can do that as well. So let me go ahead and see if Mylio has caught up here, and I can go into my folders, and it's being slow again. Oh, there we go. 1 second. And hold up. Sorry, guys. That's not what I wanted either. Okay, come on. There we go. Maximize and back to folders. There we go. So if you have things that you are finding only in the Finder, let me go ahead and pull up Finder here. You'll notice I have a bunch of XMP files that are just sitting here and there are no actual images. So let's say I want to have one of these images show up and I just need to have that particular original. I can right click on anything here in Mylio and say download originals. It's going to go ahead and do that. And then when I pop back over here, we will see, there we go. There's, let's see here. Where did it go? It's going to be in here somewhere. There you go. There's the JPEG. That JPEG that I just told it to download is now in here. It wasn't before. So you can do that on a one-off basis. Just download the original and that pops it back into Mylio. The other thing you can do is change your sync policy or change the tap to sync for a particular folder. So tap to sync lets you, from the top level of a folder, decide what's stored locally on any given device. Think of this kind of like Dropbox when you say, I need to have these files always on my computer, but the rest of these over here, it's fine to put them on the cloud. I don't always need them. It's kind of the same thing with Mylio. You can do that at the folder level. So if I always want to have Mylio keep my stuff in a single folder on my computer locally, there we go. I can go here to the tap to sync and I can say store original files locally. And that's going to tell Mylio always keep these files in their full original quality format on this computer. So while it's doing that, let me go over here to the sync panel because it's probably taken a minute to go ahead and download those. There's a good handful of files there. But if I jump back over here to Finder, you'll see, there we go. Those are all of those coming back. So that's telling Mylio, keep these original quality files on this device, and they're always accessible here through this shortcut. The other option you have is to set up a sync collection. So if you go over to your dashboard and into your devices, and then go up to your device sync policies, you can see I'm set to space saver, but I can set something to override this, and I can go ahead and add a sync collection by folder. And again, I can say Mylio InBox, and that's selecting everything in my inbox, and I can say done, call that inbox, and go ahead and say save. And now I have a policy that I've told Mylio, always keep this as an exception and override the space saver for that particular folder. So I can say apply changes. I don't necessarily want to do that, but you get the idea. No, I don't want to save changes. There we go. So that's what you can do if you find that you only have the XMP files in the folder. It can be a little startling at first, but just be assured Mylio didn't delete them. It's just doing what it's supposed to do and managing the space on your computer. And it temporarily offloaded them to the other locations where you store your stuff. Excuse me. All right. So a word of caution here. Don't delete the Mylio InBox. The Mylio InBox folder is required and is a core part of Mylio's architecture. All of your shared media from mobile devices lands here. If you delete the Mylio InBox, Mylio will try to recreate it. If you move that Mylio InBox, Mylio gets confused. So leave it at that top level. If you decide you don't want to use it, just ignore it. You can hide it. You can go ahead and right click on the folder and you can hide it. So if I go back to my folders view here, give it a second here. I don't know why this keeps going slow. It doesn't like it when I'm doing a live session. But you can right click on a folder and hide it. Keep it at the top level. It should always be there. Don't nest it in another folder. If you do happen to accidentally move the inbox, what you're going to want to do is go to the inbox and folder view. You're going to want to move all of the media that you currently have in that folder into something else. You can even make a temporary folder to put all of that media, but you want to have an empty inbox if you accidentally moved it under something else. Once it's empty, delete the inbox folder and then restart Mylio Photos. Mylio will be able to recreate that at the top level where it belongs. And then if you want to, you can move the things that you temporarily placed elsewhere back into that folder. So that's how you fix it if you accidentally move it. If you don't want to see it in your OS, in your operating system, if having that shortcut in Mac Finder or Windows Explorer is annoying to you, and I do know some people that really don't like it, you can go into Settings, Advanced, and enable them and toggle the Enable Mylio InBox OS integration off. And that just removes the shortcut from your system. Again, it doesn't delete the folder. It doesn't hide it inside of Mylio, but it does hide it in your operating system. So if you find that to be annoying, you can certainly do that. All right. So just to kind of recap a few best practices and tips here, the inbox is a door, not a room. Use it to bring your media in and then move those files to wherever their permanent home needs to be in your library. I highly recommend doing any moving of media, do it inside of Mylio. So once you drag it into the Mylio inbox or you import it into another folder, any moving that needs to be done, do that inside the Mylio Photos application whenever possible. You're going to have the best experience and you're going to have the least likelihood of things getting lost or disconnected with your Mylio library. I do like to recommend organizing by date. So once things are into your inbox, for example, using the calendar to move things around, I find that to be super helpful. So organize by date, and if you have a date-based folder system, this part is so easy. If you need to delete things, delete with intention, because anytime you delete something in Mylio, it is a permanent action that affects all of your devices. Deleting something in Mylio deletes it from Mylio on all of your devices. And if you delete something in the file system, it triggers whatever your external changes policy is. So make sure you understand, if you're going to go into the file system and start moving or deleting files, how that affects your setup. And if something seems wrong, if your files aren't appearing, check the activity monitor, scan for changes, and restart Mylio. If you're only seeing those XMP files, they're just likely on your vault. Go ahead and right-click on that image in Mylio, tell it to download, and you'll see that jump right back into your Mylio inbox. You can also override that with Tap to Sync or with a sync collection. So with that, I'd like to open up the floor for questions and see what you guys have for me today. All right, I'm going to take a look here at the chat. Alan said, I just don't understand where photos I move into the inbox end up being stored. So hopefully, Alan, I covered that and you have a better understanding, but just to kind of recap, when you put things into the Mylio inbox, into that shortcut, they're going into a folder in Mylio. This folder lives on your hard drive. You can see it in macOS Finder, Explorer, or you can see it right here in the Mylio interface. And if you ever want to find out from Mylio where one of those pictures is, go ahead and go to that. You can say right click on this. I'm going to go ahead and we already downloaded that original, so I can say reveal in Finder. And there's that exact picture. That's where it is physically stored on my computer. All right, let's see here. Alan says, sounds like the purpose of the inbox is to allow quick adds to the library to temporarily hold them and for later organization and movement without creating a duplicate. Absolutely, that is exactly correct. All right, and also every once in a while, it might not catch a duplicate. Just to be clear, if I have moved out of the inbox and run dedupe, I would need to watch and make sure the dupe is in the inbox and not in the permanent file location. So yeah, as you're running dedupe, you can prioritize and say anything in the inbox, that's the one I want to get rid of. So if you're cleaning up duplicates and you already have one that's in your permanent filing system, you can tell Mylio to delete the ones in the inbox. Let me show you how to do that really quick. You're going to go over here to your tools and photo dedupe. And let's say we want to go ahead and run dedupe on your entire library, but you want to prioritize getting rid of any duplicates that are in the inbox. So what we can do here is go to AutoMark, and I'm going to go ahead and delete that one that I had there before. First thing I like to do is reset the defaults. Just gives me a clean slate. And then you go here and say add a folder duplicates may be in. So if you've been putting things in there that you know you're going to need to clean up, go ahead and choose Mylio Inbox and select. And then you want to say prioritize removing them if they're in the Mylio inbox. Go ahead and say run AutoMark, and that is going to look at what's in the rest of your library compared to the Mylio inbox. And if you have a duplicate in the inbox, that is the one that it's going to go ahead and get rid of. All right. And on to Harold. I use the Mylio inbox all the time for importing. I like your method of using quick filters. How would you use the clipboard to organize? How would you access it? Great question. The clipboard is also a very, very good way to organize that particular area. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. If I go in here and I have a few pictures that I want to move around, there's a lot of different ways that you can move things in Mylio, but let's say I do want to use that clipboard method. So I've got this text file and this picture of my grandfather's medals, and maybe those I want to put into my family history folder. So I'm going to go ahead and select those. I can drag those down to the bottom of the screen. That opens up the, used to be called the Mylio clipboard. We now call it the quick album. And from there, those are in kind of a temporary holding area. I can then navigate to a different place in my library. So let's go ahead and go here to family history and Campbell family. I can then just grab these and drag them up here into that folder, and I'm moving them into that particular part of my library. So yeah, that's an absolutely great way to do that. All right, John says, by selecting photos or a group of photos for moving to a folder where any sidecars automatically come along. Excellent question, John. So it will only bring along sidecars that Mylio supports. So it will bring along your XMP files, but it will not bring along like ON1 or ACRs or Radiance or any of those other sidecars that might be associated. So it has to be one that Mylio supports, which at this time is only XMP. I really hope in the not too distant future we can change that. But for now, it'll take any XMPs with it, but it will not take any others. All right. Alan, I'm glad you enjoyed this and that you have a better understanding of the inbox today. That is exactly the goal of these sessions. All right, Andy's saying in the sidebar, my Mylio inbox is titled Inbox. How do I change its name? So if you accidentally changed it yourself, what you would want to do is you can go to the folders and just go up here to your folder and into info. And you can go ahead and just type in Mylio inbox and that should work. If you have any problems with it because it got renamed, please do reach out to support. They might need to walk you through a couple of extra steps. But in most cases, just going and clicking on the folder and changing the name here in the sidebar should do it. All right. And let's see here. Does anybody have a hand up? I don't see anything. Lori, have I missed anybody? Awesome. Well, I think that if nobody else has questions, I think that is it for today. I do want to give you a reminder that next week we will have our live Q&As on Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll have another coffee break for you on Friday. We'll be talking all about deleting things, what happens when you delete, and how to handle that. Make sure it's done with intention, kind of like we talked about today, but we'll go more in depth. And then the following week, actually, we're going to be starting a new series with Lori, and she's going to be doing her own Q&A sessions on Wednesdays for people who are brand new to Mylio Photos. So if you're just getting started and wondering what to do to get your initial library set up, this is going to be a great session for you. My Q&As are always open to everybody, whether you're just starting out or you've been with us for a while. But sometimes they can feel a little advanced and intimidating to people who are brand new. So we wanted to have a session just for those who are getting started. Lori's going to be taking care of that. Really looking forward to her starting that up, and I think it's going to be great. So with that, I want to wish you guys a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Lori, for helping out in the chat, and we will see you guys all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.